those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Wake Up America with Kristina Lynn. I'm your host, and I'm here tonight, as always, to help you open your eyes and see the truth. Many things have changed in our world, and this is a show where you're going to get to talk to some of the experts. You're going to get to hear from people that are on the cutting edge. You're going to get to see the things that are really going on that maybe you don't get to hear every day on the news. This is the show that's going to bring it to you right away. So stay tuned because we have got an amazing guest tonight. Someone that you will not believe is going to knock your socks off. Wake Up America starts right now. Hello and good evening and welcome to our new time for Wake Up America. I'm your host, Kristina Lynn. And here we are, 9:30. So I'm kind of enjoying this because I don't even have to get to the station during rush hour. Yay! Anyway, it's great to be back. And I know that our listeners are with us. We put it out all over Facebook and Twitter, and we're so glad to see now that everyone is with us and getting some great response for our 9:30 slot. And to launch this time slot out, I have one of my favorite guests on, and he's one of a pair of my two favorite guests. But tonight we have none other than Larry Siegel. Lawrence is back. Dr. Larry Siegel, he is here with us. And he is a clinical sexologist and a very well-known, I would say probably one of the most popular, if not the most popular, professor, college professor down here in South Florida. So, Larry, welcome to the show again.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you, Kristina.
Well, it's great to have you back. Yeah, now tell me about some of the classes that you teach and where you teach here. I know people have been actually writing in and asking us, where can we get one of Larry's classes? They'd like to know more about that.
Well, I basically teach, I'm on faculty at Palm Beach State College. I teach psychology, sexuality, drug education, health and wellness. And I'm also on faculty at a nursing school up in West Palm Beach, Burnett International College.
Wow.
Psychology, human development, a little bit of pharmacology. And
you cover so much.
We're both my brother and I have been on the what's called special topics faculty, the medical school down at FIU, where we're teaching sexual pharmacology and certain other aspects of sexuality.
What is sexual pharmacology, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, it's
I don't know that I've really heard that term too much.
It's a pretty umbrella term. We can look at it from the standpoint of sexual effects of drugs and medications, drugs and medications that are used to treat sexual disorders and sexual issues, but it's really mostly that
like
drug and sex
Viagra?
connection. That could be. That would certainly be under the purview.
Make it a joke, but seriously, that would be something.
And there is such a thing as too much Viagra. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there could be. I've heard those commercials where they say if you have something going on for more than 4 hours.
That's right. If you have an erection lasting more than 4 hours, don't call your ex-wife. Don't call a hooker. Get to the hospital.
I remember Gary Shandling used to make jokes about that all the time, and he was really funny. He says, I'm not going to call my, forget it. I'm not calling the hospital. I'm going to have fun.
That's right. That's right.
But seriously, that is a very important subject.
Yeah,
because
it really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
I could see how these things could be misused, and it could become dangerous.
Yep. And how we also underutilize them.
Right.
There's also, we can't broad brush, drugs with this sort of negative view. I mean, sometimes we have them for a reason.
That's right.
And they can be very, very positive, and they can be very, very helpful. So just sort of understanding that's an area that people, in pharmacology programs and in pharmacy school, they don't talk about any of that stuff.
Right.
So to really sort of put all that together is important.
It's an important subject.
Sure. Well, when you consider that, was it something like 75% plus of adults in this country are on at least one medication daily?
Wow.
And that's not even including recreational stuff.
That is shocking.
Yeah.
That is a high number.
With the increases in legalization and availability of cannabis and cannabis products, it's going to become even more an issue to look at, what are the relationships between those things. So,
very true.
Sex and drugs, I get to spend my day talking about. There are definitely worse things.
Okay, audience members, so those of you that want an interesting class, if you want to go back and continue your education, I would highly recommend go check it out at FAU or at Palm Beach State.
And let me also throw in, too, that both Ricky and I travel around a lot, training professionals and doing a lot of these kinds of workshops and trainings for all health professionals, mental health professionals, allied health professionals.
Wow, that's excellent. So you're really able to cover so many of the different aspects of, sex education, which I, of course, do support, and I feel that it's so important. It's just important to have it out there where people can talk about this, and it makes it such a much more healthy atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, it's been a real pleasure with Wake Up America ever since we began the show last year. I have been able to really have the blessing of having you and Ricky on as regular guests, which I've really thoroughly enjoyed, because with everything that's gone on between the Weinstein situations and Matt Lauer, who is actually, a former colleague of mine, and so many different things that have happened now with everything with the Me Too movement. There's been so much going on now with the battle of the sexes and with sexuality and so many of these aspects. So tonight, I'd like to further that discussion. I've had, oh boy, did I ever get a lot of comments and feedback every time I've had you and Ricky on the show.
Oh, good. Well, we've always had fun. Always have. And and on that, one of the things that I've kind of noticed, it sort of jumped out at me, and looking at all this Matt Lauer stuff and Louis C.K. and the Weinstein and all of these things that have been coming out. And again, Matt Lauer in particular.
Yes.
It shows me very clearly what lengths so many guys are willing to go to just to get over on women.
It's shocking.
To exercise that power and control over them.
Yeah.
Even people that, to be honest with you, surprised me.
Oh, yeah.
I still think he's one of the greatest chefs, and his food literally brought a tear to my eye in eating in his restaurant in New Orleans. But to find out that someone like John Besh, who I always thought was such a sweet guy. I mean, talk about somebody who, puts himself out and has this energy about him and all that, to find out he was like that in a kitchen.
See, all walks of life have been affected. It's just crazy. And, it's interesting because if you look at the aspect of talk television and, top interviewers, there's Charlie Rose, Tavis Smiley, and Matt Lauer. Just one clean sweep. So that's one thing I'd really like to talk about tonight. One of these issues that we're going to look at, and I get to have the whole show with you, so I'm very lucky with that. By the way, before we go any further, too, I just like to say I always dedicate the show every week. And tonight I would like to dedicate it to a very special man that I've been really honored to meet, and that's your father. I know that he's in surgery tomorrow, and we're all sending prayers and positive energy for him.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And Ricky, we know you're there with your dad, and we're sending a lot of good energy to you. And I just want to say he's a wonderful man. I have never seen such a proud dad as he is of you and Ricky.
Yeah.
And the work you do.
He's a good man. Definitely,
really is.
Definitely one of the good ones.
Yeah, he sure is. So I want to dedicate this to him tonight.
Well, thank you.
Well, you're so welcome. And, nobody loves you like your mom and your dad. And it's true. It really is. Yeah, but anyway, so moving ahead with that, I just want to say that I have seen something very interesting since the last time you were on the show. We've had award seasons in Hollywood. We've had the Oscars. Everyone did the red carpet, as we all know. And it was very interesting how I'm going to give up this example because I'd like to get your opinion on it. Let's look at two different examples, and I want to see what you think about why did these turn out like they did. Actually, three. Okay, we have James Franco.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I think that he did one of the most imaginative, creative films last year. The one that he did, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm just going blank now on the title. But anyway, it was a great...
It's about that bad movie.
Yeah, the bad movie. You got to excuse me.
Now I'm blank. I just blanked on the title of it.
Yeah, if anybody wants to call it in for us, it'll come back to me in a minute. But anyway, his film that he did, I think was really an amazing film, and his acting was amazing. So he won the Golden Globe. Now, nothing had come out that anyone knew about until he got that first award at the Globes there in January. Okay? Oh, I know what it was. It's on the tip of my tongue. Hey, okay, out there, if you want to win a trivia, I'll give somebody a prize if they call in and answer the trivia question. Call in now at 888-565-1470. Actually, I'll have you look that up if you will. If you can Google it for me discreetly over there, Larry.
Quick.
James Franco Oscar-winning movie or Oscar-nominated movie. But anyway, it was interesting because he won the Globe, and then the next thing you know, the next day after he won the Globe, there you have all of these actresses, and one of them was Ali Sheedy, who was very beloved in the 80s from The Breakfast Club. And, I usually always remember the name of every movie I like, but anyway, it's something. Oh, well, anyway, it's on the tip of my tongue, but just the same.
The Disaster Artist.
That's it. I knew it was Artist. The Disaster Artist. The Disaster Artist. Brilliant film. And I thought, you know what? I said, I'd like to see him win the Oscar. I said, this guy could go all the way. But sure enough, after the Globes, Ali Sheedy and several other women that said they had dated him or had worked with him had been harassed. And there were 2 actresses that said they had been harassed on the set. And the next thing you know, that was the end of seeing James Franco. Oh, and then they had the Critics' Choice Awards after that. And I believe, and he won that also. Okay, then it came time for the SAG Awards, and he literally snuck in the back door.
Yeah, I heard that.
With his girlfriend. Okay, because, they did not want him there. And then as soon as it came out, after he snuck in for the SAG Awards, I noticed when all the publicity, getting ready for the Oscars, leading up to the Oscars, that was it for Mr. Franco. They cut him out of the front picture on Vanity Fair. And even though a lot of people still were fans, like I was, of The Disaster Artist, the film, and it still was nominated for Best Screenplay, Original Screenplay. That was it for Franco. He was gone. Now, let's look at another case on that. And I'd like you to respond. And I in no way condone any behavior, but I just found it interesting in our society as to how that played out. Because there's a big debate now of, do we boycott an artist's work because of their behavior or not? And so let's go then to Woody Allen. Okay, I'm a big Woody Allen fan too. But I know so many people that as soon as they found out, so many people really loved Mia Farrow, and they found out that Woody was seeing her little 16-year-old daughter, on the sly, and she found the pictures, and that was it. Of course, he's been married now to Sung Yu for many, many years.
30 years.
Yeah, like 30 years. So that's a very unusual case.
Right.
But there are still alleged accusations about him having been improper also with his daughter, with Mia. Now, of course, he's been doing fine. He's just been rolling along.
Right.
Nothing happened there. Okay. So what do you feel about those 2 different cases, and what does that say to us now?
The first word that comes to my mind is conflation. I think, first of all, with the Woody Allen thing, again, this has been going on for, it was over many, many years.
Yeah.
There has been, on both of their parts, and very detailed and in-depth explanations of how their relationship, really sort of came to be.
Yeah.
And again, both of them have always been very, very consistent in that there wasn't any sort of improperly sexual type of thing with her as a minor. They did not do anything. They did not have any involvement.
They waited until she was 18.
Yeah. And then it became a relationship. Now, is it unusual? Is it atypical? Absolutely. Is it illegal or immoral? I think this is where the waters get very, very muddy. And unfortunately, I think when they're brought up in the context of what we're seeing happening now, I think it muddies things way too much.
Yeah.
With James Franco, from what I have read and heard, he wasn't predatory. He was not assaultive.
That's what I was
abusive.
Understanding.
He was hitting on. He was trying to get him something. But I think that's real. And I think part of the problem right now is that we start painting these with these really broad brushes. James Franco, Woody Allen, Al Franken, I think do not belong in this discussion of harassment and abuse and sexual predators. I don't think that, we can look at Harvey Weinstein in the same way
or Kevin
as we
Spacey,
can look at them, and
Louis C.K.
and I know this is really tricky ground here. I'll kind of step lightly on this, but even with Kevin Spacey, what he is guilty of is hitting on a minor who had always presented himself as part of this young man in particular. Yeah, he was underage, but he was always at the parties. He was always putting himself, presenting himself that way. And getting drunk one night, Kevin Spacey was hitting on him.
Right.
Inappropriate, no question.
Yeah, very. See, that
But
in that case,
I don't think it belongs in the same category as a Harvey Weinstein or a rapist, or even, to be honest, even Louis C.K., who I've always been such a big fan of. But that kind of behavior is definitely crossing a lot of lines. It is assaultive. You know, whipping out your junk and masturbating in front of a woman without her consent, especially after saying, no, I don't want this.
Right.
Yeah, that's
so inappropriate.
Way over the line.
It's very
And I think the
disgusting.
biggest problem is we're putting all of this stuff in one big category. Again, going back, you didn't mention, but in bringing Al Franken into this, the thing that basically got him out of Congress was a joke
the picture
that the woman was a part of. She'd even said, yeah, she was part of it. She wasn't sleeping. She was pretending to be asleep. She was a part of the joke. She had spoken to Al about that. They kind of knew, yet this came out.
Right.
And then it got into the hands of other people and then became a big social issue. So
Right.
I think what we're dealing with is a very typical situation of pendulums that have been stuck in one position for a long time. Once they're finally let go, there's a tendency to swing too far over to the other side before we find that sort of settling in the middle.
Okay.
So
Is that what you feel is actually going on at this time?
I think there's a lot of that's happening, and again, it's not always easy to see because there is so much that does really truly need to be called out.
Oh, yes.
Right? Men have to be called out on this behavior.
Absolutely.
And there's again no.
I mean,
question about that.
misusing their power and things like that. And of course, to
Absolutely.
me, with the age, Kevin Spacey obviously knew how old that guy was, and he knew that was wrong.
Right. And being drunk is not an excuse.
No, he's responsible for
Right.
his behavior.
Right.
And whether he's straight or whether he's gay, he's still responsible.
Sure. I mean, again,
for his
that's not
behavior.
relevant. But
Right.
does that, right, hitting on a minor at a party, right? Because again, I think context is important. Is that behavior enough to warrant destroying a career?
But I did hear that there were several other allegations that came out after that, too, with Kevin. So I think there were other things, too.
And there well may, again, I'm just looking at that
Yeah.
at face value because even before any other allegations may have come out, that was enough
Right.
to get him pretty much
And it was interesting.
thrown out.
Exactly. I found it also, speaking of the Oscars, very interesting, Larry, on how fast they were able to cut Kevin Spacey out of all the money in the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unlike the disaster artist. Sorry about that, James Franco. But with all the money in the world, they were able to cut Kevin Spacey out. And, of course, put in, someone else very quickly.
Yep.
Who did an amazing job. He did a fabulous job, and you would never even know. They just cut him right out.
Right.
And in they put the new actor. So
again, I think there are times where, and as these tidal waves come up, there are going to be things that get washed away that maybe shouldn't get washed away. But I do kind of accept that there's an element of that is necessary.
it's going to happen.
It is going to happen. And again, while I think it's a part of putting everybody on notice,
Yeah.
I think, again, there's far more good and positive and things that
Yes.
are necessary that are coming out of it. Out of this, then we can not wanting to focus on these kind of
Right.
Casualties.
And thank you, because, that brings me to the next point that I want to bring up. I'd like to see, how do you feel that this is trickling down now to our college-age students? And, being in the college world and being in academia, you're able to be around that a lot. I had heard a lot of really very upsetting reports, even before all of this came out, in the past, where there were so many reports of date rape and things like that going on college campuses. Do you feel like this Me Too movement and a lot of these changes with a lot of these celebrities, that this has now helped to change the attitudes for young men in our world, in high school, college?
Well, a lot of what I have heard from college age guys, in some cases, yes, relating to it, but in a lot of cases, not. That's them. I'm not like that. I wouldn't. Okay. And while they're, and I was actually kind of talking about something similar earlier, and this is an ongoing dialogue that we're having. That's part of this idea of what does it mean to be a man,
right?
And I'm kind of in the middle of seeing the people on the one side, the guys on the one side that just don't care. Right? They don't care what's going on. They're not going to change anything. They're not going to think anything different. And on the other side of guys that think, okay, now can I not even talk to a woman? Can I not flirt with a woman? Where I don't know what to do. If I just even go up to her and say hi, then I'm going to get in trouble for that. So somewhere in the middle, there has to be this rational ground.
Right.
I don't know we're there yet. I don't know if that has presented itself because we're still in a very reactionary type of state. We're still in the discovery of all of this. Every day, more and more is coming out.
That's true. Right? You know what I would like to see? I would like to just see a whole new atmosphere of respect.
Yep.
Of good old-fashioned respect, like we used to see in the old films. Again, I'm tying in a lot of Hollywood and a lot of film, and which is so important in our society.
I want to challenge you on that.
And I could be wrong.
Okay, it's because one of the things I actually on the previous show that just did, I was talking a little bit about how we can trace some of these sort of masculine role models through movies.
Okay.
And if we go back to the 40s and 50s, your Edward G. Robinsons, your Spencer Tracy's, your
Clark Gable.
Almost all Clark Gable.
Rhett Butler.
That has got to be one of the one of the most iconic love scenes in the history of movie. Right?
Yes.
From
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. If you really think about it and look at it, it's a date rape scene.
I never thought of it that way.
It's a date rape scene because all she was doing was protesting. No, stop, don't, which then kind of led to that cliche. Don't stop.
But then she did want it, really.
But that became, I think that is the root right there of a lot of these issues. That became sort of this icon for what women are really all about. Yeah, your lips say no, but your eyes say yes. You're going to say no to save face, but as long as if I can just get in there, you're going to love it and you're going to give in. And I think that created a lot of these negative male attitudes. Spencer Tracy, Edward G. Robinson, they're famous for scenes that abuse women.
Well, you have a very good point there.
Right.
Now, of course, I was thinking of the Jimmy Stewarts, and I was thinking of the Gregory Pecks, the gentleman.
The gentleman who rarely got the girl.
Oh, I don't know. I think Gregory Peck did okay, didn't he?
Well, in the movies, in some things.
Right, I'm teasing with you.
Even looking like, I was also talking about like John Wayne.
My mother, by the way, I just want to say one thing. Speaking of Gregory Peck, my mother named my brother Gregory after Gregory Peck. And do you know, they had a show on, I think it was actually on Oprah one time, where Gregory Peck, she had him on, and he is the one man one famous person that has had more children named after him, Gregory's, than any other person ever. Isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. So I think he did all right there.
He was because
we thought of him as a gentleman. Yeah.
Right. He was a great presence. He was big but not imposing.
Right.
He was confident without being cocky. I mean, he had a lot of really, really good kind of features, but there was still, I guess today we would refer to something old school about that.
Right.
But going from your sort of the man who keeps women in line in the 40s and 50s.
A kind of macho image.
Yeah, and again, the Spencer Tracy, Edward G. Robinson kind. And then when John Wayne came along, the strong, silent type.
Right.
Always rode off into the sunset alone.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right?
You're right.
And then I kind of
Gary
mentioned,
Cooper, too.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Right? Uh-huh.
So, but that was a changing sort of portrayal of masculinity.
Right.
In the 70s with the Alan Alda, the sensitive man kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, everybody. Women loved Alan Alda in the 70s, absolutely.
Right, but only on screen.
Right.
Right? Because when they're all, and they started saying, let me see your feelings, let me see you cry, then when their men cried in front of them, they ran away back into the arms of an alpha. Right? So again, confusion.
Tell us a little
was
bit
setting
more
in.
about running back to the arms of an alpha. I like that point you're bringing up. What do you feel the dynamic behind that is?
You know, I wish I can give you a clear answer, because I've often puzzled over that myself. When I hear women talking about, well, you know what, I'm more attracted to a guy who can make me laugh. But I've never really seen women go home from a club with the funny guy. They go home with the alpha. Right? And oftentimes it's the one who is the biggest jerk, who seems to be the one that that kind of gets the prize, as it were.
Oh, I love a sense of humor.
Right? So yeah. And I think, you know, but I think
But I see what you're saying.
there's a
you
disconnect
are making an interesting point.
rhetorically versus reality. When we're sitting around out of context talking about this stuff, I think we have the luxury of saying, this is what I really want, this is what I really like. In the situation, it seems to be a little different.
It's not going to be the comedian that's standing up.
Right.
If you're going to have Robin Williams versus, let's see, who would be, I guess Brad Pitt. If you're going to have Brad Pitt up against Robin Williams.
Well, even I would take Brad Pitt.
Yeah. God bless Robin Williams. Right. But anyway, no, I see
again,
what you're saying.
It really, I think there is a disconnect. And it's a human thing. I don't want to, ascribe any gender to it. I think we all have a disconnection between what we would say we like rhetorically and then what we actually do.
Exactly. That's very true. Well, see, this is what I love about with having you on the show. You're able to give us such great insight. I know we have a lot of women listeners and men and women, but you just give me such a good, and our audience, such a great insight into what men are feeling and thinking today, because it is changing and it is different. But I think that this new era of respect, because of these things coming out, like you say, I think there are a lot of men that are waking up. They are beginning to see changes. And I'm very, very excited to see that. So I think this is something you've really helped us to see today. And just, in closing out now, just kind of in finishing up, what would you want to say to our listeners about moving forward with this? What do you see in the future? Do you think we're going to end up having things get a lot better from what's going on?
I'm hopeful. I am. Okay. I'm hopeful. I'm hoping that this is going to continue to carry forward. I'm hoping that more and more men can use this as an opportunity to understand that power is not manipulative, that respect often means you let somebody else take charge. You learn to be quiet and follow. I think we sometimes are too quick to want to jump in, have solutions, give answers. And sometimes the best thing and most respectful thing for us to do, and sometimes the most masculine thing for us to do, is to be quiet and step back.
Right. Very good. Well, I again, thank you for all these great aspects that we've looked at tonight, and so many great viewpoints that you brought to the show. So
my pleasure. Thank you.
This has been great. So once again, thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Wake Up America. I'm your host, Kristina Lynn. Be sure and tune in next week when we're going to have another amazing guest. Until then, remember, it just takes one person to change the world. Make that difference. Thank you. Good night. Well, that's about all we have time for tonight. But I want to thank you all for listening. We've got a fantastic and really loyal audience that wants to wake up. Wake Up America is your show. Be sure and tune in next week right here on WNN with me, Kristina Lynn, and with some of the most outspoken and outstanding guests that you can ever hear on radio. Until then, just reach out to wakeupamerica.com. Let me know what you think. We want to hear your comments, and we want to make sure and have you come join us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks again. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Remember to wake up and look for the truth. And you do make a difference. One person can change this world. So wake up, speak up, and America will see you next week right here on Wake Up America.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Talk 1470 and 95.3 FM, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. Tune in for The